Okay, so the last thing we're going to add is our sound button, which my sound being like not remotely compressed and being a rather large file might be one of the reasons this takes so long to load up. So when I look at my finished thing, I have no idea if you guys are going to be able to hear this sound in the recording, but basically I would press this button and some sound will start playing, and if I click it again, sound stops playing. Alright? Very similar to this button with the added extra measure of needing to add sound related items to the whole thing. Alright, so I'm going to go into my finished version and steal my button for sound. There we go. I'm going to put it in the right place this time. There we go. Ah ha ha, there, that's why. Every time I right click, it automatically goes to this layer. That's okay. I can put that pretty easily. There we go. So I'm going to place that there, and just like before, I have a frame 1 and a frame 2, right? Sound, and then the little slash sound. Alright, and then of course the other thing I have to add is some sound. I have to add some sort of, audio clip. I'm just using MP3s right now. So I got to import to library, and eventually it gets there. And I'm going to go to my desktop. And somewhere in here is a piece of background. I called it background music, MP3. And yeah, 2.5 megabytes, little on the largest side. So hit open. There we go. Alright, now, just like we did with our movie clip for our people, or for our characters, I have to right click on this and go to properties. And there's actually 2 sets of properties now because we're dealing with sound. I'm going to start with the ActionScript tab though, because I need to tell it to export for ActionScript. And I definitely don't want this to be the name because that's a very long name. Now if you title it My Sound with capitals for both the M and the S, this will match up to the code that I already have written. Alright, now under options, yes, I know it will make a new class, thank you. Instead of default, if you want it to sound nicer, you can put it to raw and tell it not to convert to mono, because some of these default settings are kind of based on like old computers where people were getting sound like from bad motherboard cards and things like that. So if you want it to sound exactly like what you've made and not at all compressed, you have to say raw and tell it to go back up to 44 kilohertz and not convert it to mono. But if you've just got some MIDI music or something and maybe it doesn't matter as much, you can leave that compressed. Alright, so we hit OK. There we go. And let's see, so now I need to go to my doc file and get the top set of code. It's a little bit longer than the other one, but a lot of it is actually exactly the same. And I go to my frame that has most of the action scripting in it, and I go down here, and I copy this. Alright, so some things that are the same as before. Sound button, dot stop. Well, don't play through the button, right? Variable played, boolean equals false. So this is the same as here. I am making a variable, I named it played, and I'm saying this is a thing that can be either or. It can be 1 or 0. It can be true or false. Now I'm setting it to false at first because I don't want music to be playing at first, right? That just depends on, what your client wants, but I prefer not to have any music slammed at the person using the website until they actually, ask for it. Alright, so a couple other variables have to be put in here because there is sound involved. So we called the music My Sound before, and we have to, in the code, kind of define that as we have to bring it in, just like you bring in your character all the way up the beginning. We have a character, blah 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 MC, and oh no, here we go. We bring in a new version of it and we call it this, right? That's the same thing here. Because we have not physically placed the sound in the scene, we have to give it an instance name, basically. That's the, with these buttons, they both have instance names. Oh, that one doesn't. Well, I should probably fix that. Sound underscore button. Now they both have instance names. So does this movie clip. They were pulled in from the library. But for the music and for our character, these are things being pulled in by action scripting. And so when you do that like that, you have to tell it, okay, this movie or this thing that I'm bringing in, it has this name. You have to give it an instance name, basically. This next one down here is actually just to do with, if you're going to have sound, you need to add a channel for sound. Right now there's video coming out, that's by default. But by default, Flash doesn't have a sound channel to try and lessen the size of the file. Basically, it's not going to send through any audio information unless you tell it to. And that's what this line is referring to. So you're going to, make a new sound channel called My Channel. All right, and I'm actually going to separate that a little bit. There we go. So sound button, add event listener. It's a click we're looking for, and we're going to call it sound play. Again, arbitrary name sound play as long as you name it here. And then this function is almost identical to the other one. You have this line right here that is identical. If played is false, then make played true. If otherwise, make it false. So when you click on the button, whichever thing it is, make it the opposite. That's what this line means. If we go down to this line right here, this is identical to this one. This has to do with the button. Well, alright, if it's true, then go to and stop on the second frame of the button. If not, go to the first one. You'll see it's reversed. That's just because I personally, when I made this, let me test this video out so I can show you, I want the button to mean it's showing the state of things. Or no, excuse me, it's showing what you could do. So if you click on the sound button, it will create the sound, it'll start the sound. If you click on the button when it's got a slash through it, it will mute the sound. I could reverse that though. And I'll do that right here. I can, if I want to, I can set this to 1 and this to 2. What that'll mean is instead of showing the action you're about to click, it'll show you the state of things. It will show the sound button when it is playing, and it'll show the sound muted button when it's not playing. So you can actually change this based on which frame you made which and which you want it to be. This middle one here is just specific to sound rather than the one up here for the sky. Instead of stopping on one frame and then stopping on the other, we're saying if played is true, then play the sound, right? My sound.play. If not, stop all. Just so you know, this code is for just stopping the sound, and then when you restart it, it'll just restart from the beginning. Completely different thing if you want to pause sound and then have it restart from the place you restarted it. That's a whole lot of other stuff. Alright, and then this last one here, is an event listener for sound complete. Meaning, what do you do if the sound is over? So it's adding an event listener with this little function name right here, sound completed, which we define over here. And what that means is if played equals false, meaning it's not playing anymore, go to and stop at frame 1 of the button, right? Which actually I need to change to frame 2 because I changed it up here to say if played is false, then go to and stop on frame 2. So basically when the song ends, it's going to go to the button that means there's no sound. Alright, so we're going to test this. Hit enter. I messed up something. It's not going to the right frame. Although I should have tested to see that it... Let's see. 2, 1. I'm betting what happened is because it starts, everything always starts in frame 1 and I said sound button stop, which means if I want it to show if I wanted to show with the slash through it when it's not playing, and then have this here when the sound is playing, I should change it inside the button. I shouldn't change it in here, because changing it in here, it doesn't take into account that it always starts on frame 1. Right, so it would eventually, if I changed it in here, if you clicked enough times, it would set itself right. But right now, if I want to change the order of those, I got to go into my button. And I'm just going to make a copy of that and put it there, and then I'm going to move you there. There we go. And I'm going to get rid of that extra frame. Right? And so now the default is the no sound. And that will reverse it for me. That will make it so that when there is no sound playing, it's the mute button. And now there is sound. And then I click on it and there's not. So sometimes it's just better to change it in here. And actually it makes more sense to change it in there, because trying to start on frame 2 is just more trouble than it's worth. It doesn't even make any sense. Alright, so that was our sound button. Oh, there we go. Come on. Come on. Oh, why is this? There we go. Alright, so it's a little longer than the other button, but otherwise is very much based on the same stuff. So this is specific to sound. This first one you could actually kind of use for almost anything, as long as it's toggling back and forth between 2 different frames of the same thing. I saw a lot of people already doing that with their backgrounds. It's a good idea. Alright, so that is all.